What happened to Traumah Drums? So this video is long overdue. I never spoke about it. I know a lot of producers have been asking me throughout the years, and a lot recently too, like, yo bro, what happened to your old drum sounds? Yo, what happened to the Traumah drum kits? Right? A lot has happened, and Traumah Drums, I put my first drum kit out 15 years ago. It was June 18th, 2010. I put my first drum kit out and built a company from that called Traumah Drums. And so if you've been rocking with me for a minute, I appreciate you, because it's been a long journey. It's been a lot of things that I never spoke about since that time and what happened to the sounds and that brand, that company. So, and I don't want to get too deep into it. I just want to give you the basics of what happened. So even before we get into that, I just want to say that basically how it went was I ended up moving to California, right? So I left my corporate job. I got fired on purpose. That's a whole nother story. And then I got on unemployment because I figured that could help me bridge the gap between leaving the corporate job and doing music professionally full time, or being able to make money, make a living off of my music. So basically I had a business partner, or a friend at the time that I developed a relationship with. We became real cool. And so I was probably a couple of months out of not working, and I had mentioned to them, they had called me. I was at the barbershop, I still remember, and I was like, yeah man, I'm thinking about moving to Cali. And he was living in Cali. And so he was like, yo man, I'm looking for a business partner. You should move out here for sure. You know, we could get a spot, you know, this, that, and the third. So I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And I was ready for a major change in my life at the time, man. I was in a relationship that was, well, actually dealing with the ending of a relationship that I knew wasn't going anywhere. So I was ready to just make my move and take the leap. And one thing I want to say is, regardless of all the things that happened and some of the things I'm going to take you through, I'm still happy and very appreciative of that experience, because I found my heart and my soul living out there. And I moved back to Cali now. I'm back in Cali. I'm from Phoenix originally, but I found my heart and my soul at that time. I was 24 when I moved. I had just turned 25 as I was getting settled out here that first time. So anyway, I ended up making the move. We made plans. I was like, okay, so March or April, I think it was April. Yeah, April, I'm gonna move out there. So I started doing beat making videos. My first beat making videos was going crazy, man. Like 10,000 views, 15,000 views. And so I partnered up with this guy. And I'm not gonna say any names too, because we haven't spoken in a decade. So I don't even know where he is, or, you know, any of that. And I'm not trying to bring any old energy back. I feel like I've moved forward from that time. So, but some of you who were around at that time probably know who I'm talking about. But like I said, I'm not even gonna bring up any old energy. And so anyway, so I move out here and we stay in a hotel for like a week. No, I think it was longer than a week. It probably was like almost a month. We're looking for a spot. So I had joined his company at the time. This was before Traumah Drums. I had joined his company and became a 50-50 partner with this company, so that I could help bring more of the producer element to the brand. Though he was a producer as well, but I kind of was like doing it all the time, making beats all the time. So I was, you know, bringing that part of it. And he was working on business most of the time too. So that's how we ended up gelling well, is because I was more so focused on the music part and his focus was on the business part. even though I had a business mind and he had a music mind as well, we just made sure that like, this is my strength right here, this is your strength right here, so let's focus there. And it worked out that way, right? So the company ran for a good 3 years, almost 4 years. And then we just no longer seen eye to eye, right? That's basically how it ended up. Like, okay, well, I want to go this way with the company. You want to go this way. But before getting into that, we established the Traumah Drum Company. How it happened was I basically was creating a drum kit to sell for that particular brand that I became 50-50 part of, the business. And while developing the drum kit, because I was already making drum sounds and doing all kind of stuff, giving drums to my homies and stuff. And I figured like, because we needed a new product or something else to kind of like put out in the market. And I was like, you know what, let's put a drum kit out. So upon me making that drum kit, I realized like, yo, sound is so limitless. I was just reading this book. I think I had just finished reading this book by Wallace D. Wattles called The Science of Getting Rich. And The Science of Getting Rich had mentioned this formless stuff, right? It was talking about this formless stuff. You could create something out of it and it'll bring you wealth forever, right? And so when I was making these sounds, I realized like, dang, sound is formless. Sound is like literally raw energy that you're dealing with. I literally felt like Einstein. I had just went and made a bunch of percussions for this kit. It was called the Traumah Drum Library. Most of you guys know what I'm talking about. That was the first drum kit I ever put out. So I started making the sounds, the percussion sounds for this kit. And in those percussion sounds were also kicks, claps, snares, the whole nine. And I didn't expect that to be in there. And I was like, man, I feel like I just discovered something, right? I felt like Einstein developing or discovering relativity. But at that time, my business partner was gone. So he came back and I had just finished making some of that kit. And I was like, yo, bro, I think I could start my own company with this. I think I could start something like, I don't know the name yet, Traumah Drums. And that I just threw that out there because I was going by the name Trauma before Brahma. That's a whole story in itself. I'll do a whole nother video on that. But the essence is from Trauma to Brahma. Trauma was the name I had went with since high school, since I was rapping and when I first started producing. And Brahma came during a time I was developing my spiritual side, like really finding my higher self and who I am and what this whole life thing is about, why am I here, my purpose. And so there's a book called The Holy Science. It's actually, you can't see it, but it's on my shelf. I've had that book probably since I was 18, 19, and maybe a little older. Anywhere between 18 to 21, I can't remember what year I bought it, but I remember buying it. But anyway, they spoke of Brahma, and Brahma is one of the trinity of the gods in Hindu. You have Vishnu, Shiva, Brahma. Brahma's the one that's never really spoke about, but Brahma is the creator god that created the universe through sound. So I didn't know that until I was already given the name. So it was a conversation I was having with a friend, and it was like, yo, who you think you is, Traumah Brahma? And I was like, oh, shoot. Because they had read that book. I had gave them that book to check out, and they read it, and I guess they seen that name in there. And I always seen that name rhymed, but I never kind of looked at myself as that until it was given to me in that way or referred to me in that way. And I feel like the universe gave it to me in that moment. So I was like, man, and I was carrying both names, Trauma and Brahma, but Trauma identified more with my, childhood growing up, seeing things happen within my family, being traumatized when my brother was murdered when I was 14 years old. Then my mother passed in 2005 when I had just turned 27 days after my birthday. So a lot of that trauma was before that. Trauma came, I believe it probably came after my brother passed or right before he passed. But even before then, how I was born 2 months premature. Wasn't supposed to be here, right? The doctor said that they told my mom I wasn't gonna make it. That's why in that song that you heard that I did, Traumatized, that's what I'm saying. I said, they say I wouldn't make it. Mama said her prayers, and here I am now 22 years later, right? I was 22 when I wrote that. So anyway, saying all that to say that that was a spiritual journey going from trauma to Brahma. So it was probably meant for me to close that company down, even though I had loved, you know, what we had built at the time. But maybe that was me shedding that name. Maybe that was part of it. And that's just coming to me now speaking of it. But anyway, so told him like, yo, I want to start this company. And since he made me part of his company, I was like, you know what? I want to give you 50-50 of it. You know, you could do the business. I'll do the sound design and, you know, whatnot. And so that's how it worked out. And so we built this company up 3 years, 4 years, took over the market for a little bit, man. Thanks to y'all loving the videos. That's also what happened to all my old YouTube videos. So during the time, it just wasn't working out. Like the friendship was deteriorating just because we started growing apart and seeing different things, having a different, I forgot who, I think TD Jakes did this speech before. And he talked about having constituents, comrades, and there was something else, but he said basically, in essence, go look at that video because I'm paraphrasing it. I'm going to butcher it. I just remember the essence of it. But he spoke about having certain people, certain groups of people are only there to rock with you because you guys share the same belief against something. And then, or in certain people because you stand for something. Then there's people that just, you know, funk with you for who you are and just straight up, right? They're gonna ride with you regardless. So I think with me and that person, we were for certain things and against certain things, so we gelled in that way, right? And we had similar mentalities when it came to like developing spiritually and the finding out the real or trying to solve the problem of what we go through as Black people in America, right? So that was part of it. Trying to, you know, in music, there were so many different things we connected on, but there were also other things that we didn't connect well on. So, and that happens with friendships, you know, sometimes you grow apart. Like, I'm not mad, I'm not bitter or anything. There was a time where I did feel a certain way because I had to close my old company down in order for me to really, that was the only choice I had, right? That was the only choice I had at the time, was to close that down in order to move forward in the way I wanted to, because we couldn't agree on what to do with the company, being that we were gonna go ahead and go our separate ways. So that was the only thing. Tried to sell it, thought about selling the company. I didn't feel right with my name and my face being attached to something that I didn't represent anymore or have any type of control over, because if I sold that and someone else bought it and they went and did what they wanted to do with it, they could make me look like a fool. They could add new sounds that I didn't create, and it could mess up my whole reputation. So I wasn't for that. No matter how much money you gonna offer me, it didn't matter. It just didn't gel, unless it was a certain deal to where it's like, okay, you're still gonna be a part of the company, we're gonna pay you, you know, we just wanna have the ownership in it, whatever. But anyway, at the time, that wasn't the type of deals on the table. We got lowballed. I wasn't going for it. I wasn't going for the lowball. What they offered, I knew that I could make on my own. Yeah, it was crazy. But anyway, and then there was another offer I just didn't feel comfortable with because I didn't know who it was coming from. So anyway, and it was 6 figures, but it wasn't worth it to me because money only means so much. You can't buy me. You can't buy my soul. My soul is worth more than gold. So that's why that happened. So anyway, didn't see eye to eye, couldn't agree. There were certain things that I feel that I wanted to take the company in this direction that he didn't want to, and he probably wanted to go another direction too. I think he wanted to focus more on the brand that he started initially, because I ended up doing a handshake agreement with him to give that company back and no longer own 50% of it. So that was a whole nother thing in itself. But like I said, I've grown so much from that. Even being out here for that time, I grew so much from that because I had left where I was from. I'm from Phoenix. All my family, everybody I know is out there. Coming out here, I didn't know too many people. I had a couple of friends that I knew out here that I met a couple of times, but it wasn't nothing too you know, it wasn't like back home. And then shout outs to my dude Graydon Square, who ended up moving back to Cali because he's from Cali and we met in Arizona. But when he moved back, he was like a breath of fresh air because he kind of helped me get out of that environment. Because sometimes I felt stuck. Sometimes I felt like, man, I'm just stuck in this box. So he would come, we would, you know, pick me up, and we would ride around, him and his girl, work on some music. He produces and raps too, so that helped me out a lot, man. Shout outs to my dude Graydon. He don't know that, he probably don't know that, but he was a breath of fresh air at that time. So anyway, so part of the agreement of closing the company down though was that I had to cancel my old YouTube channel. I couldn't upload it on it anymore, which was, to me, it didn't make sense, but I was just trying to go ahead and just make the transition smooth as possible. So there were certain things that I agreed to that I didn't have to agree to because that was my YouTube channel, my personal YouTube channel, before I even gave it to the company. So we just happened to use that one to build the brand on. So I could have kept it, I still have it, but I deleted it because I was like, okay, cool, I don't need that. I'm gonna start from scratch. And then I thought about it and I was like, damn, there's like 10, 15,000 subscribers on here, over 1 million views. And I tried to resurrect it. And when it got back, all the comments were mostly gone. All the subscribers were gone, and the views are still there though. But anyway, saying all that to say, it was a long path. And then after that, I could talk about this for a long time. I don't want to talk about it that long because this can go on for a minute. But basically, I basically had to resurrect myself. I started from the ground up. So I moved back to Phoenix end of 2013 going into 2014, or like mid 2013. And I had to start from the ground up. That's where you seen the soul samples come out. I came out with the drums because I couldn't use the name Traumah Drums no more, right? That's what sucked as well. It was like the agreement we made was none of us could use that name. And it was a name that I had built for a longer, way before I even met him, longer than I knew him. So, but that was an agreement that he was like, yo, okay, well, we can't use this name. Okay, that's fine. You did help me build this sound design brand with the Traumah Drums, using some of your marketing tactics. Okay, cool. You know, respect. I won't use it no more. But I think that, like I said, on the spiritual end of stuff, looking back at it, that was higher self saying, okay, you're saying you really want to shed this name, and you know that that is part of your progression as a person, as a soul, then you're gonna have to shed it, and that means shedding this company too. So, and that's the thing. That's why I say hindsight is 20/20, because you could look back at stuff from a very objective point of view. You're no longer subjective in it, and you can't see it because you're in it. But when you look and you can see it from a bird's eye view, you can see the whole scope of things. So I know, speaking right now, that is what that was for. I had to shed that name. But the thing is, there's a dichotomy to that though, because even though I shed the name, trauma will always exist somewhere because it's part of the foundation, right? It's just like when you're doing your shadow work, is what it's called. When you're working on the parts of yourself that no one else knows about, that no one else sees, the parts of yourself that you hide, right? That you probably are ashamed of. That's doing your shadow work, the things that you turn your head about yourself, right? The things that you don't like, things that you judge about yourself, they stay in the shadow. But that shadow needs an expression. It'll never go anywhere no matter what you try to do. So I own the trauma that I've been through, right? But I no longer identify with it. That's the difference. I was identifying as it. Yo, I'm trauma. Think about that, right? So I had to take away that name. I wanted to, I'm not that. I went through it, but I'm not that. It helped me become who I am, but I'm not that. So that was a large part of my growth, and it was one of the hardest things to do. And I could see why now, because I put so much energy and effort into creating that in identifying with that it literally attached itself to me. And when you're trying to let go of things that attach to you, it's not the easiest thing. It's going to be a hard time letting go. But I had to let that go. But at the same time, like I said, I'll never deny that aspect of myself. And it's basically finding out how to make it work for you and make it work with you, because those sides of yourself still need an expression. But it's about transmuting the energy, changing it into a higher, more usable form, a more positive form, right? So anyway, I'm saying all that to say that was a large part of why I closed the Traumah Drums. I still own the sounds. The sounds are still mine. And I've actually put them in I put them inside the Ape Army. So any producer who's a troop in the Ape Army, you're eventually going to get those kits as you move up the ranks. I'm going to give them all to you and show you how I used sound to create those kits, and allow you to use those very same kits to create your own drum kits. So yeah, man, anyway, I just wanted to speak that, because I never spoke my piece about that. And I know people wonder, producers ask me, yo bro, what happened to Traumah Drums? What happened to your sounds? What happened to your old YouTube channel? What happened to you and old dude that you was cool with? That's what happened, man. And I hope this brings clarity to you. If you, in all my old videos I still have, I just have them on private. The only one I left up, there's two I left up on that old channel. The interview with Battle Cat, just because who am I to hold that away from the community? He gave a lot of game, a lot of wisdom, and I'd be selfish to just close that out. So that, and then another one called From Beat Making to Mixing, and that one got like over 100,000 views. And I just wanted to let people know that, you know, this is still, you know, this is where I came from. So it's almost like I almost had to delete my history, but I'm not going to do that. I might even release those old videos. If you guys want to see the old videos from back in the day, let me know. I could take them off private. I've been thinking about it, but there's another side of me that goes back and forth with that too, because it's like, yo, that's old energy. You're going to be bringing old energy back into the new world, and I'm not trying to do that. So yeah, man, that's it, man. I know I said a mouthful, but I just wanted to give you guys a scoop on that. And there's more stuff that I went through too, personally, like rebuilding from the ground up wasn't an easy thing. Coming back to Phoenix with just basically broken, because I was like, man, I had to close my company down. I went out there and found something and developed something and built something from the ground up that became something strong in the community. And now I got to close it down because me and this cat aren't agreeing, and we got to go our separate ways. And it's the only way that it's going to happen, in a way to where, you know, that it's going to make sense, or something that we can agree on. And it's deeper too. It's deeper in the sense of like, there's a lot of things I could say, but like I said, I'm not going to bring back any old energy. And I had to get over how I felt about that situation, because certain things did seem like, you know, petty and unfair. But I come from being able to have thick skin and not trip and find the most efficient solution, and also understanding that if I am who I say I am, I could do it again. And that's exactly what I'm doing. And that's what I've been doing. I had to get over mental blocks though too, because that whole time in my life, I was transitioning from one person to becoming growing into a whole new person. So, and sometimes it takes years for you to really fill those shoes, or to assimilate the things that you learned in your becoming, in your growth. And I feel like I'm at the point now that I'm at a point where I'm able to assimilate all that. It's really just about doing it. And that's why you see me on this 90-day YouTube video challenge. It's bigger than just, oh, I'm gonna do a video a day to get on the algorithm. No, it's like, yo, I'm coming back to where I started. I'm coming back to giving the gems that the producers loved and why y'all rocked with me. in the first place. It was bigger than the drum sounds because within the drum sounds, the drum videos, I was weaving in the knowledge and the wisdom from my experience. And now this time around, I'm giving it all to you. I'm showing you everything behind the scenes of Logic. I don't know too many producers on YouTube that are doing that right now, that are actually showing. There's a couple, I'm not saying none, but some don't take you behind the scenes and tell you and show you what they're talking about, or even give you certain aspects, certain gems on sound design or music business, developing yourself as a brand. So that's what I'm here to do, man. And if you have any suggestions or any things that you want to talk about, any new videos that I should do, any topics that I should speak on, things that you need help with, leave them in the comments, okay? Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe if you're feeling the vibe, especially to help us build this tribe, because that's what it's really all about. There's more to this story too. I'm gonna do another video where I go deeper, because I basically just gave you the first 4 years maybe, and it's been 15 years since then. So the story unfolds in a lot of ways. There's a lot that went on during that time. Okay, so anyway, that's what it is, man. Thank you for tapping in and tuning in. Shout outs to my troops in the Ape Army. Also, check out this video right here where I tell you how you can get inside the Ape Army and get your hands on this exclusive 808 plugin that I built only for the troops. Check it out.